After a 2-week break, Extra Time is back here on LCFC Radio and LCFC TV. And after the international break for Leicester City, it was a 1-1 draw at Old Trafford against Manchester United, of course. To review that game and to look ahead to Thursday's clash with PSV, we've got Tony Cottee and Iwan Roberts with us today. Morning, gents. How are you both? Tony, we'll start with you. Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, morning, Dan. I had a good weekend. I didn't manage to see the whole of the Leicester game, but I saw most of the game and I saw the highlights, obviously, and I know we're going to talk about that. So that was my Saturday, and then on Sunday, as you would expect with two of my old clubs playing, I was at West Ham yesterday to see another victory for the Hammers and another defeat for Everton, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Iwan Roberts, how are you? How was your weekend? I know you were at a fairly important Welsh derby, weren't you?
I mean, they're always big occasions, even though they're 16th and 17th in the Championship with not a lot to play for. It's not been the best of season for both Cardiff and Swansea. But it has to be probably the most one-sided South Wales derby I've ever seen. I mean, Swansea convincing winners 4-0, could have been more. And those two teams have been playing against each other for over 100 years, and it's only the first time a team has done the double over the other. I mean, that's quite a remarkable statistic, really. First time ever someone's done the double in the South Wales. I mean, they beat them comfortably down in Swansea earlier in the season 3-0, but 4-0. And as I said, it could have been more. It could have been more.
Yeah, that is surprising. I was going to say neither of them really pushing for the playoffs or anything like that, Ewan. So there wasn't too much on the game in that sense. But with it being a derby, obviously everyone's up for it.
And it just goes to show, I mean, normally for the past 15, 16 seasons, that's been a live game on TV. But Sky decided to put Blackpool, Nottingham Forest on the early kick-off on Saturday. So that goes to show it's probably a bigger game, obviously, in South Wales. It means more for the people in South Wales than it does elsewhere.
Well, speaking of TV games, Tony, at Leicester City, their trip to Manchester United was, of course, the evening kick-off on Saturday. You can understand why it was picked for television, can't you, with the two sides and how they both play. And Leicester really will be disappointed they didn't get all 3 points.
Yeah, it's always one of them, then. When you look at the game, before the game, you look at it and you think, Manchester United away, always a tough game. You know that. We know by the results and how many times Leicester have won there over the last 25 years. I think it's twice, isn't it? You know how tough a game it's going to be. So that's before the game. And then as we sit here now reviewing the game, I agree. I think you've got to say, in a way, it's disappointing that Leicester didn't get the 3 points. Yes, it's a point at Old Trafford, which is normally a really good result. But I think with the chances, with the disallowed goal, etc., with all what was going on, I think Leicester will probably look back and feel a little bit harshly done by and a little bit disappointed in that dressing room, I think, that they didn't take the 3 points. It was a really good performance.
Do you agree, Ewan?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought second half is as good a performance as I've seen from Leicester away from home this season, and I thought they were top class. Big decision went against Brendan and his players. I mean, McTominay, I thought he was very fortunate to still be on the pitch. I thought it was a poor challenge. He's high, it's reckless when he goes in on James Maddison. He goes over the top of the ball. I thought that was the wrong decision. The disallowed goal, I can understand after seeing it again why the referee's changed his mind. But in the heat of the moment, how many of those types of challenges do you see in the game? I thought it was an unlucky one that goal was disallowed. The Fofana header, it was a fantastic save by the goalkeeper. Disappointed with the goal conceded. I think when you look back, and I think if Kasper looks back at that goal, could he have sort of palmed it away from danger, so to speak, instead of putting it back into an area when it was then Fred to come on and smash it into the roof of the net? But, Leicester, in recent seasons, they've enjoyed playing against Manchester United, haven't they? That's 5 now without losing to Man U. I think they've won 3 of their previous 4. But all in all, it would have been a feeling of disappointment leaving Manchester United, I think, on Saturday night with just that 1 point. Thought deserved all 3.
Yeah, we'll talk about the decisions a little bit later on, but just again, on the game itself, you mentioned that run Ewan against Manchester United, that would have been 4 wins in a row in all competitions if Leicester had done it. And you always think Old Trafford is a place to go. You'd be lucky to get a draw, wouldn't you? And that's maybe not the case these days. And that's why Leicester will be even more disappointed that they did come away with a draw.
I think you're right, Dan. I think they'd only lost once in their previous 8 games at home. I think that was to Wolves. But when you look in recent weeks, I think Burnley, Brighton had gone up there and got a 0-0. I think Watford had drawn at Old Trafford. I don't think it's got the fear factor that it had when myself and TC probably played up there when Fergie was in charge. They didn't give too much away back in those days. I thought, an hour and 15 before kickoff, you get the team sheets. I think would have been a bonus. Not seeing Ronaldo, not seeing him in the starting 11. That would have given the Leicester boys a lift. Great to see Johnny Evans and Wesley Fofana starting for the first time since the FA Cup final. I think it was. That was the last time they started before Saturday. So it's good now that players are getting back fit. Brendan's got options, and he's going to need all those options because it's going to be a busy end to the season. But it's a good point. It's a very good point, especially when I think away form in recent weeks or this season hasn't been great for Leicester City compared to what they were like on the road last season. But to come away from it with a point at Man U with that element of disappointment, you'd be relatively pleased.
And it sets Leicester up, doesn't it, Tony, for the end of the season now? I know on Extra Time we've been talking about the run-in for a little bit of time now and the way that you can almost block seasons off, can't you? And now that the last international break has been, this is quite obviously the final stretch now. So to get a decent draw at Manchester United to start that, off the back of a good run of form before the international break, Leicester are picking up form. As Iwan says, players are returning just at the right time.
Yeah, it's all systems go now, Dan, isn't it? What 10 Premier League games left, I think, and then you've got 5 games left in Europe. It's 15 games, and when you look, excuse me, I think the season's probably about 8 weeks away from ending. So there's a hell of a lot of games that Leicester have got to fit into a very short amount of time. It's great, I agree with you, and to see the players back from injury. I mean, you look at that back four: Justin, Castagna, Evans, Fofana. That was all injured at one stage, and that's what Leicester have been up against. We've been saying it, haven't we? Week in, week out, time and time again. Just those injuries make such a massive difference. And if you go into Old Trafford and you've got, it's not what you would call, is it their best back four or best back five? I don't know. That's open to opinion, obviously, but it's a much stronger back four than what it was certainly 2-3 months ago, where none of those players were playing. So it's great that Brendan's got those players out. Just quickly on Manchester United, and it tells you everything about Manchester United, that they aren't playing with a centre forward. Now, for a club like Manchester United, not to have a centre forward is unbelievable, in my opinion. They've got some wonderful players, but they are not a good team at the moment. And that then, of course, comes back to what we keep saying, the frustration that although it's still a really good point, and yes, it gives you impetus going into that final stretch of the season, it's just slightly frustrating that Leicester didn't get those 3 points.
Yeah, but before it, and speaking of that run, Ewan, and the confidence, hopefully that is in the group. I think it's quite clear there is confidence now in the group. Before the game, it was 6 wins in 9 in all competitions. Obviously now that's still 6 wins in 10, but with the draw at Old Trafford thrown in there as well, it is a good little run of form, and they're finding it at the right time.
Finding it at a vital time, aren't they? With a massive game coming up on Thursday night. Some very important games in the Premier League, as TC said, just 10 to go. What are they? 12 points behind Wolves in 8th position. I think Leicester have got a couple of games in hand. Is that doable? Probably not. Probably it's just slightly too. But you've got to finish the season off well. And in the last 2 seasons, form has dipped off. And I think lessons will have been learned with what happened in the previous 2 seasons, with the way the club just missed out on a top 4 finish. But no, it looks like this season, going into these last few games, they're a confident bunch. They've got momentum, and that togetherness, that good spirit that they've always had. That will take them a long way in the next 6-7 weeks.
The first half, let's concentrate on the game itself, Tony, was relatively quiet, wasn't it? Both teams sort of feeling each other out a little bit.
It was, Dan, yeah, but there was half chances for Leicester. Harvey Barnes had a couple, Iheanacho had a couple, particularly the one, I think, the curler on his left foot. I think, if I'm Cottee, I'm sitting in that dressing room at half time thinking I should have done better there, because if it's on his right foot and he's curling it, and then you go, well, he's on his weaker foot, etc. But when it's on your main foot and you've got the sight of the goal, which he did, he just didn't get enough whip on it. And then a couple of little half chances for Harvey. And then I think Fernandez had a shot saved by Casper. And I think that pretty much summed up the first half. Although there was some sort of half-decent football play, there wasn't a lot happening. Manchester United kept trying to spray the ball out wide and it's going out to play, etc. And you can see that they are a team that are well short of confidence as a team. As I say, good players, individually good players, but just short of confidence as a team. So it was a case of just getting in at half-time, just working off the back of what you've done in the first half, and then looking to try and get that opening. And when me and you've both been there many times as a visiting player, but it's easier said than done. But if you can get that goal, that first goal, it just makes such a massive difference at a place like Old Trafford, because the fans go a little bit flat. You then realise that that the team, Manchester United, then got to take the game to Leicester. And at that point, when you're a goal up, you know that you're a good counter-attacking team, which gives you the space to exploit and hopefully go and get that second goal. So, the first goal obviously was great to get that first goal, but then conceding so soon after, again, Brendan will be looking in that dressing room. He'll be looking at a lot of positives, but just that, in terms of concentrating after scoring a goal, and we see it time in, don't we? Time in, time out, week in, week out, all the time. You score a goal and then you switch off a little bit. So that would have been a disappointment. But, Leicester were a better team in the second half. I think there's no doubt about that. And thoroughly deserved to win. Yeah,
I think that's probably a frustrating thing when you do look at the match report, if you like, Ewan, and it says Kelechi Iheanacho 63 and then Fred 66. That is so disappointing. It is a cliche, isn't it? You're at your most vulnerable when you've just scored, but clearly that happened to Leicester.
Yes. I wouldn't say players switched off, Dan. Casper puts his foot through the ball, gets it up towards the halfway line. Could Kelechi have done maybe a bit more to hold Varane off the ball? I think it was too easy for Varane to come in front of him and then play the ball into Fernandez. And he's really clever, Fernandez, with his movement. He lets the ball, he sort of sucks Varane in, he lets the ball run across his body, he opens his body out, he gets his shot in. It's a good save by Casper. Let's be fair. It's just could he have pushed it further wide? That's the big thing. He puts it into an area, and no one's following in, only Fred, and it's a simplish goal for him in the end. But yeah, to concede three minutes after you've taken the lead, when you've played ever so well, where you've been the dominant side in that second half, to concede so early after scoring, it would have been a massive disappointment to Brendan.
It was a good goal, though, Ewan, wasn't it, from a Leicester point of view?
Great goal. Very,
very good team goal. Actually, before we get on to that a few of the moments that you referenced in the first half, the Kelechi Iheanacho curler, one of the Harvey Barnes efforts, they would have been unbelievable team goals as well. The build-up play that Leicester had done, it was absolutely top quality. They played some really good football on Saturday.
Played some great football. The passing and the movement, the quickness in the way they passed the ball was outstanding. And some of the moves for those two opportunities were top class. You lose count how many times Leicester passed the ball up until the final shot. But Dan, they're capable of doing that. We've seen Leicester score that type of goal on many occasions over the last 4 or 5 seasons. We know that those players have got that in the locker. The goal was Dewsbury Hall does ever so well on the halfway line. It's a great sliding challenge. Nice early ball into James Maddison. And TC and me, we thrived off those types of crosses. Good early ball, Dan. He doesn't mess about, James Maddison. He has 2 touches with his left foot. He doesn't sort of dwell on it and take his time. He puts it in straight away. We know what a great right foot James Maddison's got. I didn't quite realise he's got such a great left foot as well. It's a fantastic cross in. And it's a good diving header by Iheanacho. I think the early ball catches the United back four sleeping, and that's what allows Iheanacho to get that little bit of space that he needed. And it's a good header. And I'm pleased for him. It's been a frustrating season for him, I'm sure. being an ex-Man City player as well, he'd have loved going to Old Trafford and scoring that goal. Good header, as I say. You know, what, to get 12 Premier League goals in 25 appearances last season. You know, he'll be disappointed he hasn't had more time on the pitch. But when you've not had opportunities, Dan, and when you eventually get one, you have to take it, and that's what he did. And I was really pleased that he took his chance on Saturday.
Yeah, let's talk about the finish itself, Tony. A terrific header. For half a second, I thought De Gea had made an unbelievable save because he does get a fingertip to it, but thankfully it creeps in. But he takes it so well, Iheanacho, because it's not an easy header, the way he has to stoop down to get it. No,
it was a great finish, Dan. But there was so much to admire about the goal because let's not forget it was a Leicester corner, and Manchester United have cleared it. And Fred's trying to advance. All right, he's being surrounded by players, but Tielemans does well. First tackle. Dewsbury Hall, another vital tackle, and then the early pass. And as Ewan was touching on now, I think nowadays we see so many players, they sort of dilly and they dally, and they sometimes they look up, and even though there's players in the box, they don't cross it. And the best ball in football has always been and will always be the early ball. The earlier you do things, the more chance the forward has got of creating his own space and getting in front of a defender. I mean, the cross was absolutely fantastic. And you don't have to look. I mean, I'm sure James would have looked. He's got enough quality that he would have got his head up and looked. But if you do play out wide, like David Beckham was probably the best example of that. He didn't used to look, David Beckham. He didn't need to look because he had such a good technique, such a talent. And Leicester have got that in James Maddison and Harvey Barnes as well. You've got two players that you don't need to look. Just put in a quality ball. The ball was fantastic. Cottee does brilliant with his movement in the first place. And the best part about his header, he's headed it back where the ball's come from. And by that, what I mean is he's arriving towards the far post and he heads it back towards the near post. And by doing that, Dan, just to explain it to everyone, the goalkeeper cannot adjust his feet. If you head it towards the near post, the goalkeeper's going that way, you've got a good chance of saving it. If you head it back to where the ball's come from, they're off balance and they're trying to adjust their feet. And as good a goalkeeper as De Gea is, and we saw with that save from Fofana how good he is, he got his fingertips to the ball, but because he headed it back where it had come from, he didn't have enough chance to save the ball. It was a brilliant header, and you don't really sort of see diving headers anymore, do you? Like you score them all the time. It's just those brave centre forwards doing their diving headers, and that it seems a little bit of a thing of the past. So it was a little bit of a throwback, the goal, but. I'm sure Ewan would say the same, but I'm so in favour of early crosses because it gives players like Cottee, like Patson Daka, like Jamie Vardy particularly, that gives them the opportunity to get in front of their man. And then once you do that, Leicester have got 3 quality finishes, the players I've just named, and you know that they're capable of finishing. It was a brilliant goal, it really, really was. Yeah,
you loved the diving header, Ewan, didn't you?
I did. I scored one at Highfield Road against Coventry. Probably one of the best headed goals of my career, and it was for Leicester. But it's all about early balls because there's nothing worse as a centre forward, Dan, where when you're making 3 or 4 runs in that box and that ball's not coming in. In the end, you get frustrated and you don't.
And that's in one move, Ewan, is it? You're making 3.
Yeah. You have to go into that near post. It's not come in. You've got to get yourself back out. You got yourself to the back post. It still hasn't come in, and in the end, you stop making those runs. And nothing better than an early ball. As I say to you, Dan, it catches defenders sleeping, and I think that's what it did. And it just gave Iheanacho that little bit of space that he needed. He didn't have to generate the power with the header because the pace was on the ball that James put in. It's a fantastic cross. It's a very, very good header. It was a really good team goal.
Yeah, you'd expect that cross from his right foot, Ewan, as you've referenced, but the fact it came from his left, I think when he first went in, everyone thought, who put that ball? And you realised it was James Maddison. It was fantastic.
Like, I don't think you'd expect such a quality cross in from a player who's probably predominantly right-footed. But it just goes to show how these players now they work with both feet. And James has got that quality. We know that. It's a great ball in. It's an arch. I was fortunate enough to play with John Barnes in my early days at Watford, and it was the sort of ball that John. John wasn't frighteningly quick, but he could just whip balls in. As TC alluded to David Beckham. didn't really go past players, but he had that art of just whipping a ball in with that right foot, and that's how James delivered that ball in with his left on Saturday.
We've spoken a lot about Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall this season, Tony, really since he broke into the team in November time. It's a vital challenge that he makes in the lead up to that goal, because he's not just almost given Leicester a goal, he's potentially stopped at the other end, because Man United were breaking there.
Yeah, that's what I said, Dan. The break was on, wasn't it? And it was, you probably called it 50-50, but maybe not even, maybe 60-40 towards the, I can't remember who the Man United player was. I don't know if it was Sancho or Fernandes.
Fernandes, I think, off the top of my head.
Fernandes, was it? Yeah, and he was sort of almost more the favourite to win the ball. But there's certain things in football that get the crowd going and almost get as much applause as a goal. I mean, obviously, the biggest cheer is always for a goal, we know that. But I think the diving header is, I know it ended up in a goal, but even an attempt at a diving header, the fans go, "Whoa," like that. And I think the other thing that gets the crowd going is a sliding tackle with sort of power behind it, which is what it was. You know, it was a perfectly timed tackle, but there was such desire from Dewsbury-Hall. Like, you could see that, you know, it's not really my ball, but I'm going to make it my ball. And, you know, I know Fernandes, you wouldn't call him one of the bravest players in the world. I get that. But he's still, you know, it still wasn't his ball to win, but he had that desire. And, you know, his attitude and his quality since he's got in the team, you can't understate the significance he's had on the team. To the point, as I've said before, he's almost one of the first names on the team sheet for Brendan Rodgers. And that's the biggest compliment you can pay the lad. You know, he's got in. It's not like normally with youngsters, you get in and, you know, I've been there, Ewan's been there, you get in, you have half a dozen games where you get through on your adrenaline, and then you sort of suffer a little bit because you can't get used to the pace, or it just starts to go the opposite way for you, and you get taken out of the team, and then you go back in, you get taken out, and it's very much a yo-yo as a young player. And, you know, I know he's had to take his time. I know he's been on loan, and I understand, and he's not a 17, 18. I understand that. But the point I'm making is he got into the team, and he hasn't had the 6-game dip. He's just been consistently one of Leicester's best players every time he's played. And he's got a bit of everything. You know, he's got that aggression that we've just spoken about. He's got the quality with his left foot. He can run with the ball. He can make things happen. And when he runs, again, looking at him as a player, you look at him and you think sometimes, you know, he's not that quick. But then you see him run with the ball, and players are struggling to get near him. So you're thinking, actually, he might be one of those players that looks, you know, maybe doesn't look quick, but he's probably deceptively quick. And he's got that quality where he can use his strength. You know, I'm not comparing him to Gazza, but a bit like the Gazza where you've got your arms and you can hold players off. And he's got that as well. He's got everything. And, you know, to have kept his place in this Leicester team, I know there's been a lot of injuries, but to have kept his place in this Leicester team is an outstanding achievement in itself, just with all the quality midfield players that Leicester possess. And then to do what he's doing as well, and you know, be a part of the team and create and score goals. I've really, really enjoyed watching him play since he got in the team. He's a fantastic young lad.
You have to give a lot of credit as well, Ewan, to Brendan Rodgers, actually, because this season, I think, how well Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall played at Luton, maybe he expected to come in and be playing immediately for Leicester. That wasn't the case. He had to bide his time. I think it was November, really, before his back-to-back starts for the club. And maybe he might have got a little bit frustrated. I don't know. He's not the type of player or character to do that and openly show frustration. But obviously he wanted to be in the team. But Brendan Rodgers knew that maybe he needed to just wait a couple of months, let the season get going, and then he came in. And as Tony says, he's one of the first names on the team sheet now.
Dan, he's been magnificent, absolutely magnificent. Young lad, come through the academy system, and he's loving every second when he puts that Leicester City shirt on. I think it means so much to him. He's got so much pride when he goes out there. He's a real box-to-box midfielder, and you don't see those types of players these days because, you know, you're either a defensive midfielder or you're an attacking midfielder. No, he does both. He's got a great engine, covers the ground, got that little bit of pace about him. He's got a lovely left foot. And was he 23 now? Even I think he's 23. He's actually patient. But then when you look at the players that have been before him in that midfield, there's some tough competition. there's some tough competition to get your chance in that Leicester City midfield, whether they play with a 3 or a 4. It's not easy to break into. But he's probably been a bit fortunate with the injuries, but then he's taken his chance. He's taken his chance absolutely superbly, and it's great to see. It's great to see.
Yeah, and everyone wants to see an academy player, Iwan, as well, come through and do well for the first team, and someone from Leicester, of course, as well.
And I do think it means more to these local lads coming in and playing for their club, the club that they supported as a boy, a club that they've been to as supporters to support the team. I do think it means that little bit more to them. And I think it was the other day, and I can't remember what game it was, Dan. I think there was 4 youth academy boys that had, Luke Thomas, I think Hamza played, Harvey Barnes played, Dewsbury Hall played, and it's great to see. Especially in Premier League now, there's so much money being thrown about buying players. We're talking millions and millions and millions. I tell you what, it's great when you produce youngsters like that, and good youngsters, very, very good youngsters that have got, we've seen Harvey, he's already played for England. If Dewsbury Hall carries on playing like he does, if Luke Thomas keeps developing and performing like he does, I know he hasn't played in the last couple of games, but if he keeps playing down that left-hand side, they're going to be knocking on the door of that England squad in maybe 18 months, 2 years' time.
Final word on Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, Tony, as well. He's going under the radar a little bit, I would say, in the wider football. You don't hear him praised too much, is what I mean. Obviously, Leicester fans themselves praise him all the time. We praise him all the time, but I'm just talking more the wider footballing media at the moment, which is probably a good thing for him.
I was going to say, Brendan would be absolutely delighted about that, and probably Keenan himself would be delighted about that to a degree, because he's still learning his trade. He's still young. He's fresh into the team, into the first team. He's only been in the first team for 4 months. I'm sure he'd be the first to say, I'm still learning my game. I'm looking at the other players around me. I'm looking and listening and developing his game. And, I think there's probably a little bit of he only plays for Leicester syndrome. I'm sure that's probably thrown in by some of the reporters, some of the journalists who, in other words, you've got to play for a top 6 team, otherwise you can't get the England squad. I think that sort of attitude's always been around, Dan. Maybe not so much nowadays, but by Keenan playing for Leicester, I think it gives him the chance to develop his game and just keep doing what he's doing. I'm sure Gareth Southgate is fully aware of him. I'm sure he is. And when the time comes, he will get promoted to the England national squad. You've got to say, the way he's going at the moment, he's an absolute certainty to play for England if he continues what he's doing. But sometimes, you don't always want them to get in when they're not ready. There's a lot of good players in front of him. In that midfield, England midfield, there's some real quality in there. And the good thing, I think the positive thing I would say about Keenan is he's a little bit different to the other players. There's some, I'm thinking like the likes of Foden, and then you've got your Jordan Hendersons and your Declan Rices and that. There's some wonderful players in that England midfield, but I think he's different. And Ewan touched on it. He's got a bit of everything about him, and you don't always find that. Like a Brian Robson type, and that's high praise because Brian was such a fantastic player. But he could do everything, and the way Keenan's developing, he could be that player that can do everything as well. And that's what when you look to assemble an England squad, you look to cover everything, and you look to get a player in who can tackle, who can score goals, who can be a part of the team, look after the defence, create. There's so much that goes into being the complete midfield player. But the way he's going, he's developing nicely under the radar, which is great for everyone at Leicester because he's learning his game. There's no pressure. He's an England international now and all that rubbish. Just let him carry on doing what he's doing, and everything else will fall into place. And if he carries on doing what he's doing, that'll be next season.
Yeah, hopefully it does come soon for Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. Manchester United obviously got the equaliser as Ewan's touched upon already, and then Leicester were again the better team even after that. Had a goal disallowed. Excuse me. Had a goal disallowed. Tony, what are your opinions on that?
What, Dan? The side tells you everything, doesn't it? I'm very pro VAR, as you know, but I think sometimes they're itching and desperate to find something that's not there, that to cancel out a goal. And when I watched it, as I say, I watched the first 35 minutes, first half live, and then I didn't see the second half live, and I watched the highlights, and I knew that the result was 1-1. And when the goal went in, I'm thinking, am I going mad here? I'm thinking, I thought Leicester drew. I thought they drew the game. I didn't realise Leicester won the game. And my point is, I watched that in real time, and I didn't see anything. I did not see anything other than Cottee doing brilliant, lovely little pass, and James Maddison, beautiful finish, because he had hardly anything to aim at, because the defender closed him down, the keeper's covering the near post, he's got a gap about that much, and he just stroked it into the corner. Brilliant goal. And I'm watching him run away, everyone's celebrating. I'm thinking, I need to keep up with football a little bit more here, because Leicester have obviously won the game. I've got it wrong. And then you see the fatal VAR, and then as soon as the referee goes over, and Andre Mariner's called over, you know what's going to happen. As I said last time, I think I was on the show, I said, I don't know why they bother. Why do they bother calling the referee over to look at it? Because as soon as it goes over, he's going to disallow the goal. So that drives me mad. But having said all that, let's be quite honest and take our Leicester cap up. If you slow it down and analyse it properly and to the letter of the law, it was a slight foul by Cottee. He moved his foot away, which then put him off balance. He then falls to the floor. I think it was Varane, whoever went down, and right. he made the most of it. And his sort of his actions, if you like, I've been fouled, and it sort of made everyone look at the VAR, because if he hadn't rolled around like that, if he'd have just got on with it, then perhaps no one would have said anything and the goal would never have been disallowed. But a huge disappointment, because, as I say, to me, in real time, nothing wrong with it. When you slow it down and replay after replay, you can see why they come to that decision. But I don't think really that's what VAR is there for. It is a contact sport. Players are going to niggle at each other and whatever. And in years gone by, I promise you, 999 times out of 1,000, that goal is not getting disallowed in years gone by. And I always say we want to see more goals. We don't want to see less goals. The whole point of VAR, let's encourage goals. Let's not cancel goals. So, it was frustrating, Dan, and I'm sure every Leicester fan felt the same.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I think the general consensus, Iwan, was a little bit what Tony said there, was a massive frustration with it. Yeah. But when you see that slow-mo, you do see that the leg is moved. But Tony made the same point Matt Elliott made in the post-match yesterday, that had Varane not stayed down and he was injured, that it probably would never have been looked at.
I can guarantee it, Dan, if that same incident had happened outside the other penalty box, if Man U were attacking the Stretford end, that's not being disallowed. But I don't care if the referee goes over. I think at times VAR does favour some of the bigger sides, especially at home. And you look, after Varane's gone down, Iheanacho beats Maguire far too easily. So Man U still had defenders to clear that ball. And I can't remember who the other defender was who sold himself far too easily before the ball lands at James's feet and he smashes it in. It's as soft a free kick as you probably will ever see. And, no wonder that the lads, they would have felt robbed with it's a soft one, it really is. Yeah, he hooks his leg and he sort of slides and maybe tweaks his groin, I don't know, but he makes such a meal of it. And that's why the referee sort of goes and has a look. But it was ever so unfortunate for Leicester.
Yeah, really, really disappointing. I guess those sort of tangles happen a lot, don't they, Iwan? And if you do slow it down enough, you'll probably see a foul in every single tangle like that on the pitch.
Yeah, for me, it just wasn't clear and obvious. There's so many bodies in that D just beside the box, and things happen. As Tony alluded, the contact sport, and it's right. Accidents do happen, and I think I don't think Iheanacho does it on purpose. I think he's trying to win the ball. It's just, it does frustrate the life out of me when you see certain decisions going for certain teams, and it just leaves you scratching your head as what they've seen.
Is the ruling, Dan? Is the ruling not a clear and obvious error? I haven't imagined that, have I? That's the sort of phrase that you keep hearing. It is, they're trying to help the referee make a clear and obvious error. Is that is right, Ewan, isn't it? What they say?
Yeah.
So, if you watch that in real time, can you say that he's made a clear and obvious error? Because in real time, no one in the ground saw it. The only one who probably was hoping for it was Varane, wasn't he? No one else saw it.
I don't think not one United player appeals.
No, exactly.
And until they see he's stayed down injured, then they think, oh, something's gone on. And obviously, they've got screens on the touchline now. So I'm sure someone would have been screaming to Harry Maguire, the captain, or some of the other players, hey, he needs to be checking this, he needs to be checking this. It is massively disappointing, because it robbed Leicester of 3 great points.
Earlier in the game, this was at 0-0, just after the break. Scott McTominay, Ewan, had a challenge on James Maddison. It was given a yellow card. A lot of people have said maybe it should have been a red. What are your opinions on that?
I thought it was a red. I thought it was reckless. Is he in control? I don't think so. He's gone in with his foot off the ground. His studs are showing. James is lucky that he doesn't quite make the contact that he could have, and he could have injured James quite seriously. It just leaves you scratching your head. Was it the Everton-Newcastle game? It was a similar challenge, and I think it was Alan who got himself sent off in that game. It was a similar challenge to that. I think it's probably worse than the Alan one. He's gone over the top. He's reckless. He's not in control. But for some reason, the referees decided that it's a yellow card and not a red card. As I say, it got a lot of these decisions, Dan, they go the top teams' ways.
Tony, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, same as you and Dan. It really should have been a red card. Even if you see the still pictures of it, he's sort of got straight legs, studs up, over the ball. And then that's what I'm trying to say about a clear and obvious error. If you can you can VAR a tiny little foul, but then do you not look at that and think, well, perhaps it should have been overturned and become a red card on that? So it's very inconsistent, I think, with the refereeing. And as we've all known over the years, refereeing a football match, whether you're the referee or the assistant, it is all about opinions, and everyone's got different opinions. Mike Dean certainly got a different opinion to, say, Andre Mariner or Michael Oliver or whoever it might be. So although you've got the VAR in place, you don't always get the correct decision. And, Leicester were very unfortunate. Man United should have gone down to 10 men, and Leicester, in my opinion, really should have been allowed to get that winning goal. So that just adds to the frustration that we've been talking about, but without taking away from the fact it was a very, very good performance. And Leicester, just a little bit, not for the first time, just a little bit hard done by in terms of decisions not going their way.
But you'd think, Ewan, they can take confidence into Thursday, of course. PSV in the quarter-finals of a European competition. It's another massive game for the Foxes in Europe again, isn't it? And a chance, just like in the Rennes game, to get off to a good start in the first leg at home. Yeah,
it's a tough game. It's going to be a really tough game. I can't wait. I think both legs are going to be, top games. You look at, they had a hell of a game over the weekend, did PSV. I think they were 3-0 down after 25 minutes to FC 20. And they came back and drew the game 3-0. I think they scored the equaliser in the 94th minute. They're not lost now in 13 games. You look at their away form. They've not lost in 10 away games in all competitions. They've won 8 of those 10. They've scored 71 goals in their 28 league games. Score plenty, Dan. They do score plenty. And Leicester are going to have to be at their very best. They scored 8 against Copenhagen in the semi-final, but conceded 4. You look at the top 6 in that Eredivisie. I think they've got the worst defensive record. And Leicester have been very, very good at home this season. 1 defeat in 12, and a game that they shouldn't really have lost to Spurs at the King Power. It's going to be an intriguing couple of legs, I have to say.
Yeah, you underlined that the last round against Copenhagen, Tony. 4-4 was the first leg between PSV and Copenhagen. PSV then went on and won the second leg 4-0. So clearly they can score goals, but also they're fallible at the back as well. They have conceded, as Ewan said, 34 goals in 28 league games. So, and that's in the Dutch league as well. So you'd think that hopefully the quality difference may come through.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously a decent team, Dan. They're up there, second behind Ajax, and Ajax are doing very well in the Champions League, as we know, didn't they? So, yeah, it's going to be a tough game. They're all tough games. I mean, I said, like, with the last 8 of this competition, it's not, there's some really good teams left in it. I think everyone, when the idea first come up, and they called it the Conference League, which, obviously it means something different to us, doesn't it? The Conference has always been non-league football in our eyes. It probably doesn't mean that abroad. It means it doesn't mean what it does to us. But I think when they first dreamt up the idea, I and probably most of the people in the football world are probably thinking, do we really need that competition? You've got the Champions League, which is fantastic. You've got the Europa League with qualification now for the Champions League, making it a completely different competition. And of course, Leicester getting knocked out of the Europa League. Normally, when you go into the Conference League, you would expect a team in years gone by to go, oh, do you know what, we don't really fancy it. Oh, it's a bit of a distraction. We've got the Premier League, FA Cup, etc. But that's not been the case for Leicester. I think they deserve great credit for taking the competition seriously. There's also the option, of course, as well. Not only can you have a good cup run, the fans can enjoy the travelling, which I know all the Leicester fans have been doing that. And if you win the final, you get back into the Europa League, which is where Leicester want to be for next season. And you look at that league table, Dan, so what are they, 11 points behind Wolves or whatever it is. It's we've only 10 games. It's near on impossible to try and, get that points gap, to get into a Europa League qualification place. So for Leicester, it's a wonderful opportunity for many, many reasons to go out there, put on a show for the fans. And yes, PSV are vulnerable defensively. Brendan does his homework. I'm sure, he sets his teams up. He knows what's going on. It's not like in the old days when you play against a European team and you ain't got a clue who they are and what they do. They know everything about PSV. And Brendan will pick a team. He's got a lot of players available now. Still not got his full, what you would call his best 11, obviously Jamie, etc. He hasn't got them to pick from. But, it's really important this first leg that Leicester, even if they concede, just if they can win the game, and then I think going to a second leg, if you've got any sort of advantage, whether it's 1-0, 2-1, 3-2, 4-3, 5-4, it doesn't matter. They obviously score goals, but they concede goals. If you've got an advantage, no away goal, suits Leicester. You go out there for the second leg. Leicester are a fantastic counter-attacking team, as I've already said today. So, lots to be excited about. There'll be a wonderful atmosphere at the KP and that. And, it really is a game for the Leicester fans to look forward to. And there's so many good games to come up between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, final point on Thursday, probably Mario Götze is the standout name, Ewan, isn't it, in that PSV lineup?
Yeah, I was looking earlier, and I was looking at the top scorers in the Dutch league, and they haven't got one player in the top 7, I don't think. I think they've got a few players that have grabbed a few goals between them, but they don't rely on just one person to go out and get them 25, 30 goals. But yeah, I mean, he is the gem in their team, isn't he? World Cup winner, scored the winning goal in the World Cup in 2014, Dan, am I right, in Brazil?
Yeah.
It didn't quite happen for him when he moved to Bayern Munich for one reason or another. But he's a top player. But they've got others, Dan. They've got other good players as well.
Right, let's move on then to the other Premier League games that took place at the weekend. As we always do on Extra Time, we get our guests to pick one game each or a couple of games that caught their eye. Ewan, you can start us off, please.
Brentford or Chelsea Brentford. What's the result that was?
4-1.
Pardon? Yeah,
I mean,
that is the standout one, isn't it? Only Chelsea's second home defeat this season, but in the manner that they, and it just goes to show what a good result in their last Premier League game Leicester had against Brentford at the King Power. For them to go to Chelsea and put 4, and great to see Christian Eriksen, enjoying his football again. I think he scored it for Denmark last week.
Twice.
Great to see him. Great to see him back on the pitch, and he's sort of given that since he's been at the club, he sort of lifted them. They were in a really bad run. I think they've taken a point out of 8 Premier League games. All of a sudden, they've won 3 of their last 4. The only defeat at the King Power. So, and they're safe now. I think that's them on 33 points. You know, they'll still want maybe another 3, maybe just to make sure. But yeah, it was a fantastic result going to Stamford Bridge and scoring 4.
Tony, what about you? Which game caught your eye?
Well, I think the 2 games yesterday, really, Dan. As I said earlier, I was at the West Ham Everton game. You know, big result for West Ham. It still keeps them, you know, on the coattails of the Champions League places. And that, ultimately, I think West Ham are looking to get in the top 6 to get a Europa League position for next season. So big result for them. Disappointed with Everton, Dan. You know, their final ball, their defensively, they was poor, and they've got Burnley away on Wednesday, Everton, which is a massive game. And then they follow that up with, I think they've got Leicester to play twice. They've got Liverpool to play. They've got Chelsea to play. They've got Arsenal to play and Man United to play. And they've got horrendous running. And, you know, they've got their record low points total at this stage of the season at the moment, Everton, with 10 games left. And they are really, really struggling. And I still think they will be all right, because I think they might just end up 3 worse teams than them. But I think it's going to go right to the wire, and it's going to be very, very nervy for the Everton fans. And just finally, the Tottenham result. You know, obviously I didn't see the game live, but you know, Newcastle taking the lead, and fair play to Spurs to come back and smash 5 goals past Newcastle, who've been on a pretty good run recently, haven't they? And more importantly for Spurs, it puts them in 4th position. And with the North London derby, I think they're talking about it being the last but one game of the season now, because it got postponed in January. I think that could be really, really interesting to see who gets that 4th position. At the moment, you've got to say either Tottenham or Arsenal are favourites to get there.
Yeah, some massive games to come at both ends of the table. Coming up, that one on Wednesday, Burnley against Everton, is absolutely massive, isn't it? Right, let's move on to our football Jenga then to end extra time this morning. I know Tony Cottee has been really looking forward to going head-to-head with Iwan Roberts. Right, the theme is a pretty generic one. Name me any team in the Premier League and the Championship. So literally teams from England's top 2 divisions. And Iwan Roberts, you can. So what is there? There's 44 teams between the 2 of you to get. Iwan, you can start us off, please.
Man City.
Manchester United.
Liverpool.
Everton.
Chelsea.
West Ham.
Spurs.
Arsenal.
Southampton.
Brighton.
Leeds.
Crystal Palace.
Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Aston Villa.
Cardiff City.
Swansea.
Good shout. Nottingham Forest.
Derby.
Reading.
Brentford.
Bournemouth.
West Bromwich Albion.
Sheffield.
Birmingham.
Luton Town.
Done really well, you.
I covered all the games, TC, didn't I? I covered all the games.
No, you've been working more than me this year. Newcastle? You said Newcastle?
Your favourite team, TC, Millwall.
Oh, yeah, good shout, mate. Have you said Norwich? You ain't said Norwich yet, have you? Norwich?
No. QPR.
Burnley?
Preston.
Blackburn.
Could go all the way, this.
I know. We're going on the regions. I'm just... you're struggling, I'm struggling, aren't you? We've done really well.
Peterborough.
About 30
Peterborough.
Yeah, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 still to go.
Oh, good. Think.
But I will say there are 2 Premier League teams that have yet to be said.
Who's it on?
It's Tony's turn.
Hey. Have we said Leicester?
We haven't.
Leicester, have we?
No, correct.
Leicester,
I was about to say at the end, if neither of you had said that, you're both fired. No more LCFC TV or LCFC radio.
The regions at the moment. So.
Yeah, so yeah.
Stoke City.
Very good. It's a bit early in it to be thinking so hard about things. Come on, must be someone up there. Struggling now. Brain's not working now.
I think there's another London club TC that we've not said.
Watford.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That wasn't the one. That wasn't the one I was thinking of. To be fair.
Yeah. Watford is
got
right.
another one.
So that's it. All the Premier League clubs are done.
Right.
Have we said Fulham?
No.
Oh, good
Fulham.
shout.
So there's a few Yorkshire teams left. A Midlands team.
Coventry's still in Coventry in the Championship. Oh, no.
Correct. Yeah. 6
Huddersfield. Huddersfield.
Yeah.
You did give him a clue there. Hull.
Brilliant shout. 4 to go.
Bristol City.
Yeah.
Very good, Ewan.
Right.
3 to go.
3 to go. I want you to both do this. There's 3 northern teams.
3 northern teams.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you said this, Ewan, because I was copying Preston. I think you might have said Preston.
Yeah, we've had it.
I was struggling down anyway.
So you say one to win it, and then we'll try and...
The only one I can think of, Middlesbrough.
Correct. Right, so there's 2 to get. So Ewan wins it, but 2 to get. Let's see if you can do it between you. So yeah, two northern teams, as we said. 1 Yorkshire team, 1 Lancashire team.
Rotherham ain't there. They're not Championship, are they, Rotherham? No. Yorkshire and Lancashire, did you say, Dan?
Yeah.
Barnsley.
Yeah.
That's the Yorkshire, yeah.
Yeah.
And Lancashire.
So this team got battered at the weekend at home.
Bolton on there, don't they? No.
Well, they got beaten comfortably at home, certainly. I know that, this team, the last one. Has actually been said on extra time. Yes, Blackpool. Yeah.
4-1 Forest.
Yeah.
That weren't bad, Dan. That was probably the longest game that you've had all season.
That was brilliant. That I'll take a nice bit of editing for me, adding in all the dings there. Oh, well done. I was impressed. There was 2, 3 to go at the end between the 2 years. So that was
that's good effort, TC. Good effort.
Well done, mate.
Yeah. Good effort, mate. Good effort.
Well done, both of you. Either of you joining us on Thursday? PSV game?
Yes. Yeah.
You and his
I'll be at the West Ham Lyon game. Dan, so
oh yeah.
Yes. Nice, TC. Nice.
So is that in France? Is it, or is that? Yeah.
That's the home leg. But West Ham are the same as Leicester at home, and then if they get through, they're at home in the first leg in the semi-final if they get through. So.
Well, safe travels then if you are going over to France, Tony. Ewan, we'll see you on Thursday, of course. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in, who's listened, who's watched. We'll be back again on Thursday for that big game with PSV. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff, so do join us from Matchday Live from 6:30. Right, have a great weekend, guys, or a great week, rather.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, Ewan.